following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, a.k.a. the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. As always, it's an honor to be here with you tonight. Exit Team is a show who takes people who have real-life experiences with recovery or any kind of trauma, and we bring it right into your living room to offer you resources and let you know how people have made it through and out of what they've made it out of. We've been switching things up on the show recently, and it's always exciting when we have Catherine on the show. Okay, over there. Yep.
Hi.
Yep. So Kat, you haven't been on the show in a couple months now. So for any of our viewers and followers who don't remember you, just give them a rundown of what qualifies you to be on the show.
So I am in recovery. I will be coming up on 4 years clean and sober in May. I'm also a big proponent for mental illness, also anti-bullying. And I'm glad to be back.
It's always fun to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And so another really cool thing that happens in recovery is you get to watch people come in and blossom and find themselves. And we have known each other for almost 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And this young man right here, we have seen come in, right? He just kind of naturally came under our wings. And it's just really cool to watch you blossom and come into your own. And so this is Eric.
Hey, I'm Eric. I was actually telling Kat before that we were talking about my hair getting long, and I was like, dude, last time I got a haircut, I didn't even know who Jasmine was. And now here we are. My hair's longer than Kat's. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Life comes at you
Your hair's
fast.
almost longer than mine.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
I just got 6 inches cut.
Yeah, I'm growing
It looks
the
good,
flow.
by the way.
So.
Thank you very much. Shout out to Cassidy for doing my hair.
Yep.
It looks good.
Cassidy, you're
Yeah.
great person.
She is, and it's a great job. Last time I got my hair cut, Cassidy also cut it, and I was going through a life crisis. I live with Kat. This was years ago. Me and Kat lived together. I was not a good roommate, by the way, or a good best friend.
It was all right. It was part of the process.
And I cut my hair up to here, Eric.
Nice. Shout out Cassidy.
Was it that short?
It was really short. Remember the meme that Mason made of me? And I got so... Mason, there was do you remember when the memes of the rooster were going around? Okay, well,
the rooster was it was very projected out.
Is it the rooster with the man bun?
So Mason made a meme.
That's my boy.
The rooster with the man bun. I'll show it to you after. It literally looks just like the rooster.
Nice. I can see it.
So Eric, it's really cool to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And one thing that we like to do with the show is help end stigma. You know what I mean? And so I think it's really cool when we get to have all different kinds of people on the show, because I've had the honor and privilege of being where you've grown up and to meet some of your family members.
Yeah.
And so you and I come from very different worlds.
Yeah.
What? Very different. I've been, We also
it was actually funny that
we went to 50 Cent's house.
Yeah, we had a grand old time.
Yeah, and we met Russell Brand. It was a very exciting day. I met the fam. We went to 50 Cent's house. Yeah.
Oh, in Connecticut.
Yeah, we went to.
Oh, okay, that makes
50
sense.
50 Cent had a mansion that was previously owned by Mike Tyson in Farmington, Connecticut. So it's pretty sweet.
We went there with Arvid.
Yeah.
We were with Arvid.
It's a grand old time. It's
Yeah.
quite the day.
So, just so our viewers just get have a little bit of idea of who you are and where you came from, let's talk about pre-addiction. What was life like for you before?
It was pretty normal. I grew up in full family. Mom, dad, brother, sister, middle class. Went through the routine, played sports, played instruments, passed classes in school.
You did?
Some better than others. But,
See, much different worlds. You and I.
I kind of, did my thing, going through the grades and getting too much trouble, I guess, before, a certain point. And it was nothing really exciting. I wasn't a child prodigy or anything. It might be now. I'm on TV. So, okay. But you know, just
You'll always be a prodigy.
just a regular kid, just a CT boy.
Eric is basically our son.
Yeah,
So.
it's a tall order. So yeah, I mean, just kind of did my thing.
So there was like, for you, was there like any, so for myself, like, you know, my mom was an active heroin addict. My dad was not predominantly in the picture.
Yeah,
I was
no
subjected
one-
to abuse, to trauma. I was subjected
There was
to a
a
life
turning
of
point.
crime. So like for me, I just became a product of my environment.
Yeah, I think my grandfather, who I never met because he passed like when my dad was a kid, was an alcoholic. But aside from that, like no one in like my direct bloodline has really been like, you know, addicted or alcoholic. Like there was nothing like that I was really around like on the home front, so to speak.
That was my story too.
So like it's not like my parents were like drinking heavily. There wasn't like even a lot of alcohol like in my house as I can remember as a kid, if any. So it was not really like anything that was like around me growing up, I guess, in the house. But you know, I found my way to it, as
Right.
one would.
Which brings us, well, which is bringing me to the point that I was getting at, is that like addiction does not affect just one certain type of person.
Yeah.
You know, like the
Yeah,
three of
for
us at
sure.
this table come from very different backgrounds and very different lifestyles.
Yeah.
But
And
here we are.
externally, it looks completely different.
Yeah, and there was no like early life trauma or like any like significant events. It was kind of just like you get to the age like for me it was like freshman year of high school where like some kids in the neighborhood are like smoking pot, and then like you know, you're like, yeah, like let's try it. It's boys being boys, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, I got this water bottle that I poured a bunch of stuff from my dad's liquor cabinet into. Let's drink this, and I'm like, let's keep being boys, and then next thing you know. It's getting a little shaky, and then you know certain kids kind of figure out where to draw the line and tone it down a bit, and you know I had that thing clicked off in my head, and I was like, okay, well, what's next? Like, what's coming out next to the table?
So you started like experimenting. I think you had said like around 13 years old.
Yeah,
you
like
started
freshman year of high
experimenting.
school, and it was kind of just like it wasn't anything like super hardcore. It was more so like, oh, like that made me feel good. Like this is something else that's like supposed to be like fun or like make me feel good. It wasn't like to like necessarily like escape any like depression or like it was more so like it was definitely like recreational to start. And
Did it like how quickly did it become a problem for you, or not quickly? Some people can.
I would say like through high school, a lot of the recreational use, like I stated before, you know, I like managed to like get through my classes and like it didn't like really hold me out. I had like a couple little
All through high school?
Yeah, I had a couple incidents here and there, like the underage drinking tickets, like getting caught in public. I had, you know, managed to. What's up?
I'm so sorry. Every state's different. So you get
21 to drink.
You get a ticket.
Well, yeah, yeah. We were like drinking. There are a couple incidents where like drinking in parks and stuff like that.
And they just give you a ticket.
And the police rolled up. Well, it's like you don't get charged as like a misdemeanor or a felony, but like they brought you in and then they have your parents come pick you up at 3 in the morning. And then, yeah, just like.
Do they make you pay a fine too?
Yeah, I think so. I
Savage.
forget. I've probably honestly like made like I don't even know if I had a job when like some of these are happening. So I might owe my parents. Sorry about that, Mom. But yeah, like just like stuff like that. And honestly, like it was never anything serious, which was part of what like fueled my God complex, so to speak, or like invincibility, where I was like, this isn't like I'm good. Like I still like am working a full-time job. Like I haven't gotten a DUI. Like I haven't, you know, I'm not going to like long-term rehabs. I'm not, you know, like under a highway bridge smoking crack. I'm just like drinking. Like that's what's cool to do. That's what everyone's doing. It's legal, maybe not for my age yet, but like I didn't really face any like immediate consequences where like I kind of gave myself like a lot of leeway for it to like snowball where, you know, as if I had maybe had some stuff like thrown at me a little more intense. I don't know if at the time I would have been, you know, like even cared because there were little signs here and there where, you know, even like things like, you know, getting arrested for underage drinking or like blacking out like all the time and like feeling like an idiot getting kicked out of places and stuff like that. Like it was a lot of like behaviors that like, you know, should have been like a warning sign, but like as long as like I was, you know, doing my thing and like finding ways where I was like, I still got a job, I still got my car, like I still got money in the bank, like who cares, you know, like I didn't like see it as a problem.
I actually have a question. So I have people that have asked me, who aren't really familiar with like addiction and recovery, and you know, where do you think you personally, like, where did you kind of deviate from? There's, you know, the people who just do this as like a side effect of growing up.
Yeah.
Partying, and you know, it's said to be like the college lifestyle. So like, where did that like separate for you? When did you know that that wasn't exactly what was going on, that it was maybe like deeper?
Or like, did you not, maybe you didn't even know at the time, but like now, like looking back at it.
Right.
Yeah, like looking back, like I can see like a lot of patterns, right? Like where it was like a lot of things just like mostly like in my drinking, where it was like when other people could go out for a couple drinks and stuff like that, like, and just like the way I drank, and when I drank, I'd, you know, want to add other stuff to the mix. It could never be like enough, you know what I'm saying? But even at the time, like when I never like saw anything wrong with it. I like
Did you
always
surround yourself? Because like when you were before Kat had asked you that question, what my mind was thinking is you were like talking about how like other people would go out and do just this and you would want more. And it's like, that's weird because like everyone I surrounded myself with was like let's turn up and keep turning up.
yeah.
So like I was never the worst out of everyone I was with.
It depended because like the social circle like changes from time to time. Like people come in and come out, I guess. But I was definitely, I guess, on like the higher end of the turn up spectrum, so to speak.
He was that kid.
And like even in like sneaky ways where like you go out to the bar with like a lot of people and everyone's like out with the intention to get drunk, but not everybody walks into the bar with the sleeve and nips in their pocket as well. So while they're in the, you know what I'm saying? Like they're all, you know, still getting nice and drunk, but I'm going to the bathroom to take a pee and I'm slugging back a nip or two while I'm at it too. So it's like stuff like that. I look back and I'm like, it's a little extreme. It's a bit aggressive, so to speak. So like just really stuff like that. But I guess like the real turning point, where I look back on was when I was 23. So in 2016, I had been admitted to the hospital because I had a tummy ache, which is a really bad one, right, during my kind of heyday.
More
and
than a tummy ache.
It turned out I had a like a pancreas flare, which is like acute pancreatitis.
And you were 23.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, and they told me, you know.
Most 23-year-olds don't experience that, right?
Yeah, so I was like, okay, you're going to maybe take those tests again because, no, like, I'm 23, I'm just getting started drinking. I've only been able to buy beer for 2 years, and I got doctors telling me, yeah, you're actually not going to be able to drink again in your life. And if you do continue to drink the way you do, you're going to be dead by 30. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a hard no. I'm like, okay, maybe I just won't. Maybe I should have ate a little more before I drank that night because that's why my stomach got up. So like that's where like the like addict mindset comes in, where I just like immediately like retort to like, okay, like
not even like concerned, like defensive at the doctors.
Yeah, I was like giving him that face like, I don't know about all that. Like,
and then we had this conversation too where you're like, oh, well, like maybe I just won't like drink. Maybe I'll just go like through other avenues.
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, it did like, it hurt a lot. It was the most pain I've ever been to do in my life. And like, you know, I came out of that and I was like, all right, I'm just going to like smoke weed, maybe like, you know, mushrooms, you know, they like come from the earth. Like, that's cool. Do that on weekends. And then like give it a couple months and I'm back at the bar with the sleeve and nips, you know, on a Monday
right,
night.
which brings up a really, we're not supposed to because this does go on. Yes,
that'll be cool. I need put the thing over my mouth so you can't even say what swear word I was saying. But yeah,
which brings up another really good point because like there are certain people that like maybe like have a problem with one thing and like they can revert back to these other things. But for someone such as ourselves at this table, like I can't safely use anything.
Right.
It always leads down a road and
something to get you out of yourself.
Right.
And that's what it essentially was. Like I was like the pancreatitis hurt and I was like, all right, maybe alcohol, but like the thought of just being like completely sober and like not using anything was like so far in the distance. Like I could not even like imagine that. So like immediately start, you know, trying to, as they say, you know, just substitute stuff and like rationalize and like, oh, I'll just drink beer on Mondays. And, you know, it just comes back so quick. And that cycle basically went on for like, I think I had to go back to the hospital like 4 times within like 2 years for, you know, the pancreas. And they're like, dude, like, what are you doing? And every time I came out, I would downplay it to my friends and family because like I didn't want, you know, people to be like, oh, dude, you shouldn't be drinking and stuff like that. So like it got to the point where like I just wouldn't even like say anything about it. Or
So how old were
really,
you when you first started realizing, or not even, I guess, maybe started realizing? Because I know that you went to treatment like 8 times or something before, like
yeah,
right before.
it's been like
how-
a series of like the IOPs, and they recommend stuff like even
Yeah.
like, and like it just. I always had the plan where like I'm gonna go through this to make my parents think. And
Right. I was
outside
going to say I
people,
work
like,
in treatment, and so many people come to treatment to appease
Yeah.
other people, not because
Yeah.
they feel that they have a problem. Who am I to tell you that you have a problem? This is something that you've got to make your own internal determination about.
Yeah. So like I ran that cycle obviously for a while, and I ended up like living in Florida for a bit.
Ayo.
For like
Okay.
little
I went to
little
Florida
Tampa
for a
Bay
little bit too.
action.
Okay.
It was sweet. It wasn't for anything treatment related.
Oh.
I had a job opportunity down there,
Okay.
and you know, between like myself and my parents, we had thought it would be, oh, maybe if I get away from all my friends in
Change
Connecticut.
the location.
Little did they know, I'll get drunk wherever. Like, that don't matter. Like, I'll find it. However, I was a bit scared, you know, to go through this cycle again down there. So I dialed it back a bit. I had like a new job. I was like, had like a nice place where I was living.
Which like outside things work for a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, right? It's like that. There's
If
an
I
effect
just had this.
Yeah.
And there's
then
an
I'd be
effect
okay.
produced, and then you get that, and you're like so excited for a short period of time, but then you're back to
Yeah.
that state of being where I'm not okay, I'm not okay, I'm not
yeah.
okay.
And then once like things started not really necessarily going my way on certain fronts. And everything wasn't like turning out like how I envisioned it in my head. I was like, well, at least I can still get wild, and that's basically where it brought me. And I managed to stay in Florida for a little over a year, and then kind of hit that rock bottom again, worse than ever. This time it wasn't for the pancreas. It was from doing a bunch of other stuff, basically whatever at this point. Like I was so beaten down by alcohol, and it really like hurt to drink after a while. And like I couldn't just like slam back like booze like I could, but like it was like, okay, well, I'll, you know, pop a E-pill on a school or a work night, you know, or, you know, eat Xanax. Xanax is like a alcohol in a pill. I love that because it's like I don't have to worry about drinking a bunch. I can
And
almost...
a lot of people too will be like, well, like it's a prescribed drug.
Yeah.
It's not a dirty drug.
Dude,
There's
it's
like
legal.
a different stigma that comes with Xanax. And so in people's minds, like they don't think like, but really it's all about like the internal condition. What are you doing? Why are you using this? What are you masking with it?
And if you take away like the social perception of what it is, like they're all chemicals at the end of the day.
Yeah, and
they
I super
look
like
chemically similar.
I super like justified that where like I never like was smoking crack or like shooting heroin, and like those are kind of the ones that like from like a social standpoint, they cast them into like a category of their own. So
That
I'd be
was
like,
me.
well,
I was smoking crack and shooting heroin.
as long as I'm not like, I can't be like a real addict. Like I'm not like, I don't have a needle in my arm. Like I still got all my teeth. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like the reality was I was like going through just as much pain. Like, and it was just another excuse for me to be like, well, I can do this because like, it's not like those other people, instead of being like, well, when I do this, it still makes me feel like those other people, and it's still going to lead me to the same places.
It's crazy for me of what, you know, like looking back on how I used to think about things and like how that translates to now. So, you know, I know like people will, you know, give others a hard time for like coming into a rehab for like just smoking weed, or like, you know, they're drinking like too many Mike's Hard Lemonades or something. And it's like at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with the external. It's all the internal. So like I've also learned, who am I to say that, like, because it's not about comparing. It's about, you know, your internal condition. Like, how not okay are you?
I have worked with some people who really struggled because their drug of choice was marijuana.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand like why things are so bad for them because they're just smoking weed. And so it's really hard to have breakthroughs with them because it's like, it's not about the drug.
Right.
It's like, I don't care. People use food to mask what's going on. It's about how do we heal you inside so you can be okay.
Yeah.
And the weed they're putting out these days might as well be crack because the stuff is strong. It's not a Grandpa's Reggie from under the, you know, brick packaging. Like the stuff, taking like a fat dab, dude. You might as well. I'm
So
not.
Not
gonna-
to mention
I'm not
that, like, you know, alcohol is legal.
Yeah, it's
And
super
marijuana
like.
pretty much is legal now.
It might as well be. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I.
And prescriptions.
So
in a
I
way,
was,
so-
we were in Boston, right? And we were just like walking down the road, and like people were like rolling joints
Yeah,
and
you
like
can-
smoking joints, and I was like, this is so weird because I'm from New Hampshire and we don't just like smoke.
Yeah, I
weed on
seen
the
one of
sidewalk, but
the
we do
dispensaries
that.
in Boston. There's cops outside directing traffic. They're like, yeah, you're getting this line if you're getting Kush, and you're getting this line if you're getting sour. I'm like, you're a cop. You're telling people to go in this line to buy weed. What year is this?
The world has drastically changed. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So like the $1 million question for
Ooh.
anyone suffering or anyone that's watching and their loved one suffering, what shifted inside of you?
Well, I mean, kind of like touching back on what you're just saying, like that's how it always was for like previous treatments and like IOPs and like detoxes and stuff, where like I would be surrounded by people that were using like harder drugs and less like socially acceptable ones. So I'd basically just like put myself on a pedestal immediately, where I was like, okay, like this kid was homeless in the gutter, like, you know, shooting dirty blood into like doing all this, that, and the third. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I mean, like maybe I'll have to figure something out when I get to that point, but I just like had a tummy ache from drinking. Like, I'll be all right. Like I'll just drink a little less next time. And then it was just like the same. But like
You're
the way my
like one of the
mind works
worst clients
is
in treatment.
every time like I still like make those excuses, and it's actually like I mean this is like my first time this year that I actually went through like a thorough like treatment, like residential. I was done like
You did an entire continuum.
yeah,
Which I know that people out there like say like the treatment industry is in it for money, but I truly believe in the
No.
continuum. I believe it works for people. I see it
Yeah.
work for so many people.
yeah,
For
and the
me, it
place
was sober living added on to what I had
Yeah.
initially
You did PHP, IOP, sober living,
because
which
it's long term.
right, and you
Yeah.
need that. You need that time for your brain to heal, your
Yeah.
heart to heal, your
Integrating back
soul.
into the community. It's not like you know you're institutionalized and then you're just cut free.
Yeah, it was basically like all these little like IOPs and stuff like that like don't give you like the time that like to like connect with other people and like build those relationships. Like by the time I got out of like the long-term treatment this time, it was like that was my world. You know, I built so many like good friendships with people that were like fighting the same disease as me, trying to reach the same goal. And it wasn't like oh well this dude came from this background and he was doing these drugs, so like I'm different. It was like, no, we landed in the same house for a reason, because you know we're going through the same stuff.
You
and
started
like,
to take it as like your reality.
yeah,
It's
and I
like
think mixed with the fact that it was a little less like alcohol based too, that was kind of like a wake up call where it's like, dude, like if it's not one thing, then it's something else.
Yeah.
And if I keep going through that cycle, then I'm gonna have a needle in my arm and a crack pipe in my mouth. It's just like the way the things were snowballing. So like I don't really know, like something just kind of went off in my head. I was beaten down far enough, and I like decided to like actually take it serious and like actually, you know, stop trying to put together little plans for when I get out, like how I'm going to be able to do it.
You
right
just like
next
let
time.
someone else do it for you.
Yeah, and like people that have like
So it
been
sounded like
through
you
it.
surrendered.
Yeah, essentially, yes. That's exactly what happened.
Woo!
Good.
Yeah, so I was just like, all right, like
You know what's really cool that I was thinking about? Well, first of all, when you were talking, I was like thinking about how rocking our recovery community is here
Yeah.
in like the greater Nashua area. And then I was also thinking about how cool it is, because I don't even know if you're aware of this, but you're someone that's actually helped me tremendously over the last year.
I appreciate that.
And so like pride and ego comes into play sometimes. And sometimes I'll be like, well, I have like 3.5 years sober, which isn't even that long of a time. I'm like still in my infancy stages. But like I
Yeah.
feel like I can't like reach out for help or tell people that I'm struggling or like things like that. And like you've literally come to my house and dragged me out of my house. You've literally come to my house and checked on me. Made sure that I'm okay. And like
Yeah.
you had showed up and like you'd come over and check on me every day on like in a time in my recovery where I wasn't doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, and so like time means nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
It really doesn't. And I appreciate you a lot. And I'm really grateful that like you came to our recovery community, because I don't know where I would be without our friendship, especially
Yeah, for
when
sure.
it was so rocky for me there.
Yeah, and like I think that's like a blessing in itself, because the only reason I came to Nashua is because I was driving up the 95 with my dad, calling places off our insurance list, like what place, and like for whatever reason there was a place in Nashua that had like a room for me, And like, we didn't know, like we talked to them on the phone and they're like, yeah, come on down, it's going to be great. But like every recovery place, you know,
Right.
every treatment center is pitching the same spiel because they want to fill the bed or whatever case there is. But the place I ended up going is, I don't even know if I'm going to say it, but if you want to know, you know, message me. But
You can say it if you want.
yeah,
It doesn't-
so I already said I'm not gonna. But
Okay. I was just saying
great-
you had a good experience.
great,
there.
yeah, I had a great house, if so to speak, at Gatehouse, and and yeah, like it was. Now I completely forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, so it was just like a gamble, and it ended up being in a place where like there are like a lot of young kids trying to recover. Like another problem I've had in the past is like a lot of like the community where I grew up, and like I had been pushed into the direction of sobriety and going to meetings and stuff like that. Like I would like go to an AA meeting and I'd like walk into a room and it'd be like a bunch of like dudes with gray beards like drinking coffee, and like I was like, this isn't like my time. Like
You can find that
let my
connection.
hair get, but
Yeah.
like at the time, like now I can see it, and like now I can go into like a meeting where it's like people that are twice my age, all of them, and I can learn how I like to identify. But like that kind of like came through getting comfortable seeing other people my age do it.
Mhm.
And that's like what Nashua has given me, because like once I was surrounded by not just like people of like the first house I was in, I was like the second oldest person in the house, and I was 26 years old, which like I don't feel that old, I don't act that old, but like I was like, damn,
True
like
that.
all these kids here are like 19 and 20 and 21, like all the kids live in my house, and I was like, wow, like there are like young people like being put in these residential places like trying to get long-term treatment, and I never really saw that like where I was first pushed into, you know, recovery and treatment and stuff like that. So like I brushed it away because I was like, yeah, give me 30 years, you know what and if you give me another 30 years, I would, you know, not have been there probably, so to speak. Or, you know, it's so seeing all that, and like there's a ton of treatment centers and like sober houses in Nashua, so you're bound to like run into, you know, kids that you know, I identify with everyone just from the base level of like sharing the same disease and achieving the same goal. But like the more time I spend around, I end up making like connections with people that like, even if like we weren't in this treatment stuff together, like we probably would have been friends. Like there's common interests, like there's stuff we like doing that has like nothing to do with recovery. We just don't drink when we do it, you know? And like that is something I haven't seen, you know, where I'm from. And I hear people say it all the time because people come from all over the country to Nashua and they say the same thing. So I don't think it's just like one or two people that feel that way. I think it's like a lot of people that are like, damn, like you have no excuse not to recover. You have no excuse to not go to 4 meetings a day if you want, or just walking down Main Street. Like it's everywhere. It's wild, you know? So.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. If you have any questions for Catherine, her email is up on the screen. Check Eric out on Facebook.
Yeah.
And if you haven't
Add me.
done so already, please go follow us on I Am a Heroin Addict and go ahead and give it a little like. Eric, thank you for
welcome.
coming on the show. It was a great show. It flew by. And as always, thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.